Patriots podcast with Nick Cavins.
Yes, here we are live on this Tuesday, part of the CLNS Media Network, and this episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use code CLNS and get $50 instantly when you play $5. All right, Greg, before we get into the win in Miami, Mike Vrabel met with the media yesterday. He spoke about Terrell Williams, defensive coordinator, who, of course, was not in Miami on Sunday. And when he was asked about Williams, he said that Williams would be involved. He'll be around, but not sure what capacity. Do you have any idea if the Patriots are closer to making a decision regarding Williams, what role he's going to have, and how they move forward here?
I do not. I've been too involved with watching film and all that stuff. I'm going to assume that they will continue forward with Zach Kerr, if not, just in the interim, if not for the rest of the season, and sort of move Terrell to an advisory role, something along those lines. But I'm not exactly sure. But Mike's words, it sounds like, I don't think Terrell Williams is in there, was in there on Monday night game planning until 2:30 in the morning. And right. So I would think that's probably not in the cards for this season, or at least for a while, but we'll have to see how it goes.
Yeah, we got to remember how much these guys work. I mean, these guys put in some long hours, and if you're dealing
insane.
If you're dealing with some kind of health situation, to expect to put in, 80, 90 hours, whatever you're putting in during the week, maybe more sometimes, it's probably unlikely. All right, Vrabel also spoke about Christian Gonzalez. He was asked if there's a chance Gonzalez will be back this week. He said there's a chance. Now, I saw some people just post Vrabel saying there's a chance, but Vrabel also said there's a chance a lot of things could happen. Did not sound too optimistic. Any update that you've gotten from or about Gonzalez, or do we just kind of play this thing by ear?
Yeah, I think just play it by ear. The way I read it was that he has a chance maybe at some point this week to get on the field, but what people need to remember, and what we need to keep in mind, and maybe this is part of the reason why he's been out for so long, is that and I think somebody referenced, that David Andrews talked about this on his podcast, that it's not like Gonzalez got hurt at like the end of camp and went through all of camp. He didn't go through any of camp. So the ramp up for him is more than, say, somebody that pulls a hammy like in the last preseason game and you have 10 days and then, maybe you take a little bit more time. But he where we left him, he wasn't close to being in football shape yet. So I'm hopeful that that's factoring into why this is taking so long. Maybe they're doing the ramp up, behind closed doors and trying to do that before they unleash him on the practice field. That's my hope. And that's sort of the best case situation for the Patriots. But I still think it's doubtful that we see him this week.
All right, let's get to the game in Miami. Obviously, a nice win for the Patriots, given the circumstances, the situation, not having won in Miami since 2019. Far from a perfect game. We'll get to some of the criticisms, I'm sure. We'll get to some of the credit as well. But your big picture takeaway, Greg, from Sunday.
So my big picture takeaway is that, look, it's great to get a win. It's great to get a win in that place. I can't believe that's only the 16th time in franchise history that the Patriots have won in Miami. I mean, or 17th, I think. That's just insane. So doing that in September, that's great. Okay. And, you kind of just want to leave it there. I would say my second takeaway is that it took basically almost a perfect game from Drake Maye. His rebound this week from what we saw in week one, I thought he was just about flawless in this game. And it wasn't like, it was certainly his best game as a quarterback. It was every statistical measure, my grading system, it was the best that he has ever played. And to do that game 2 in Miami, second game in this system, that's great. I will also say, however, so it took a perfect game from Drake, a kickoff return from Antonio Gibson to emerge with the victory. I would say that the Dolphins were very much complicit in this. I think the Dolphins are not good. They're not good on defense. So as far as, I'm sure we'll talk more about the offense, but, big picture takeaways, like, am I ready to say, like, this is the way it's going to be going forward? No. I think we'll have a better indication again after the Steelers game on where exactly things are. But I would just say, considering it was the Dolphins and all the things they did to shoot themselves in the foot, the Patriots played less bad football than the Dolphins. I guess that's an accomplishment. But, overall, after watching the film, I'm still pretty shaky about this team, about the Patriots. A win's a win, and it was good to get a win. And it was great to see Drake play the way that he did. The offense seemed to function pretty well. But, with the stuff that's going on defense, with the kicker, how they barely escaped down there with a victory. They needed, a toe out of bounds to really solidify that thing. I don't feel it's not like they won a game and I'm like, okay, well, they're all set now. Now they're just going to go up. And I still don't know about this team. And we'll see where they go from here.
Hey, man, I'm looking for baby steps. And I want baby steps of progression. We didn't get it last year, and you and I talked about that an awful lot during Gerard Mayo's 1-year tenure with the Patriots, this idea of, are you going to get better as the year goes on? And that's the biggest point to me, is they were better. Were they perfect? No. Defensively, they weren't much better, if better at all. But overall, I mean, when you look at it, you look at the offense, and you look at just the idea of Drake Maye and what he did. And I know we sit here and we talk about Miami's defense is bad, and they're bad. Okay. They're bad. The first 2 weeks, they've been terrible. But I do look at some of the situations, Greg, and it means something to me. On 3rd and 4th down, high level stress situations, even against mediocre to bad defenses, you're on the road, first drive, 4th and 3, you find Diggs. Second drive, 3rd and 4, you get the Henderson wheel route. Second drive continued. You had the 3rd and 6 scramble for 13 yards. The 3rd and 5 was the touchdown pass to Kayshon Boutte. So 4th down, 3rd down, 3rd down, 3rd down. And then that third quarter touchdown drive. You're looking at a 2nd and 12 after the Jared Wilson hold. You take the profit to Rhamondre Stevenson for 9 yards, which makes it 3rd and 3, which makes it 3rd and manageable. That's a step in the right direction for Drake, not to try to get it all in one shot, right? So you take the profit. And then the 3rd and 3, following taking the profit, was his best play of the day and maybe the best play of his early career, which was the wheel route to Rhamondre down the sideline. And then you have a 1st and goal on that same drive, and he outruns Judon for a touchdown. So I thought some of the down and distance stuff, he managed it very well. He showed some poise when he faced pressure. So I think it's, some of the other things about Drake's game, not just, he ripped up a bad defense. It was some of the other particulars that stood out to me.
Yeah, I mean, I completely, if you just want to talk about the offense and Drake Maye, I completely agree with you that, it was a vast improvement over week 1. And it was great to see. Drake was in complete command. They didn't take anything off his plate. He operated the offense how it needed to operate, how it's designed to operate. He feels he looked very comfortable with everything. He was getting them in and out of good plays, bad plays. For all the talk last week, all the ridiculous talk last week, and now it's transferring to more ridiculous talk, because if you said last week that there's too much on Drake Maye's plate and Josh McDaniels isn't a good fit, he's going to have to adjust to Drake. Well, of course, after Sunday, now you're going to say, well, they did all those things. The truth of the matter is they didn't do all those things. They didn't change anything. Yes, it looked different, but a lot of it just had to do with the Dolphins. The Patriots had control of the game. They didn't last week. How many negative plays, negative runs did they have? They didn't have any. The only run stuff that I had in this game was Jared Wilson's hold. Other than that, they stayed on schedule. I don't think, they didn't have one run of 1 yard or less in this game. And also, I've heard some talk about like, well, they worked on the outside more. Yes, that's because, and we talked about it on the podcast last week, the Dolphins, if you watch their film in week 1, they were horrendous on the outside. They short, deep, they couldn't cover anything outside the numbers. So the Patriots attacked a weakness there. But so I agree, everything, we could talk all day about the improvement that Drake Maye and the offense showed. It's just the rest of the team continued to stink.
We'll get there, Greg. We'll get there.
Holy cow.
We'll get there. We'll get to the defense. Let's focus on the offense first. I did want to ask you two things, though, because I do think there were two obvious changes that Josh McDaniels did make, because I read your column, and I think there were two major differences, significant differences about their approach. Number one, Maye was under center a lot more. Week 1 against the Raiders, Maye was in shotgun over 80% of the time. It was closer to like 50-50 against Miami. And the other significant change was pre-snap motion. And I know some people, including Josh, say, motion's not as big of a deal and it can get you into trouble. But when you look at it, Lord Reeves, Rich Rybar, posted that after a 28.3% motion rate in week 1, which was 30th in the league, the Patriots more than doubled that in week 2 with 56.7%. So I do think there were some changes, significant changes. It was Drake more under center, and it was motion rate before the snap, which seemingly helps Drake. He's been much better with pre-snap motion than he has without pre-snap motion.
Yeah, I mean, yes, that's true, but the reasons for it were not, Drake related. I would contend that they were game situation related. And also, like, this was being out of every single practice.
All right, so hold on. So let me just I want to make sure you're clear in what you're saying. So you're not saying that McDaniels did not change the game plan from week to week and do different things. Your contention is he didn't do it because of Drake Maye. He didn't do it for Drake Maye. He did it because it was game plan.
Well, it was game situation, like, especially the shotgun stuff. They're falling behind, a lot of penalties, negative plays. They're not blocking. They couldn't run the ball at all. So that would tend to more, shotgun. They stayed on schedule a bit more. What I was going to say about, like, if you were there, the two significant things in this game that people are going to bring up, they're going to say that he was under center. They ran more outside zone. They ran more boots and waggles. And also the way Drake Maye stepped up and hit Rhamondre Stevenson on that 55-yarder. Being out of practice all summer, I could tell you, and anybody who was there, they should also be able to say this. The Patriots practiced a lot of outside zone all summer. Under center, outside zone, boots. This was going to be part of the offense. Now, the reasons for that, I'm not sure. I don't know if that's just because, you will get in a situation where Josh will game plan. And like last week, I think they thought, and we talked about this, that the weakness of the Raiders defense was up the middle. Against the Dolphins with Seiler inside and some other guys, really was more about their edge guys that I think they wanted to make Chubb and Jalen Phillips and, all these guys defend the run on the outside. But also, I think part of the reason why they practiced it all summer was that if you're unsure about your offensive line, if you might potentially start two rookies on the line, if you have Garrett Bradbury, who's not exactly Mr., pass protect for a 7-step drop, you would go to wide zone and more boots and waggles to help the offensive line, to hide them a little bit more. Certainly it plays into Drake's athleticism. But I think it was more about, like, what are we actually going to be able to do once we get to the season? And so the Patriots, this was not, I just want to make sure that people understand, this was not a one-game adjustment where the Patriots went to wide zone and boots and waggles and all that stuff. They practiced this a lot all summer. So this has been in the plans for a long time. I just don't think it was part of the game plan in week 1. They couldn't run the ball. The Raiders were better, unscouted team. Now they're playing the Dolphins in week 2, a divisional opponent they know well. Drake even started down there last year against Anthony Weaver. So just a lot more familiarity and knowledge to, go forward with a sound game plan.
All right, so I've been reading a lot about the O-line, especially the young guys on the left side, and what they did in Miami. I watched the game twice. To me, I thought they played really well. You tell me how you felt about the offensive line, and let's start with Will Campbell.
I thought Will Campbell was terrific in this game. I had him for 3+ run blocks. The only minus play that I had for him was his false start, which, with all due respect to Mr. Vrabel, it was an offsides. He flinched.
Yep.
So he was definitely offsides, but it wasn't that big a deal. Outside of that, I thought he was tremendous. Clean sheet pass blocking. Jared Wilson, the same thing. The only negative play that I had for him was his hold, which was a legit hold. He didn't have any plus plays. He was just really solid. He looked to me like a guy that had a lot more confidence. The other guys, were fine. I mean, of course, Garrett Bradbury had the terrible snap that almost killed this team. Nice job by Drake hopping on that. Owenu was, I would say he was better this week than he was last week. Moses was solid outside of the 3 false start penalties, which is not ideal. I'll be interested to see whether he can answer the bell this week. Seeing him in the locker room after the game, he was limping a lot. I'm sure that, trying to push off and get out there in his pass set had something to do with the false starts. We could be looking at a situation with Morgan Moses that, I don't know how much he's going to practice most weeks, before he tries to answer the bell on Sunday. But, I thought the 2 rookies were the best on the offensive line. The unit as a whole was more than solid. Man, I thought they did a good job. We talked going into this that if the Patriots were going to have a chance to win, the offensive line had to hold up against a pretty good Dolphins defensive line. And they did that. They won their battle. Patriots won the game.
All right, I have a couple more offensive questions before we get to defense, which Greg is just licking his chops to ruin all of your day. But first, let's get to PrizePicks.
PrizePicks is the best place to turn your sports knowledge into cash. With millions of members, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks. On PrizePicks, you can mix and match player projections from different sports. Combine your favorite basketball players with players from baseball, hockey, esports, and much more. PrizePicks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. PrizePicks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. PrizePicks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, that's today. PrizePicks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineup. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that's code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game.
And of course, for those listening, we ask that you subscribe to the podcast, leave a review. If you're watching us right now, go ahead and hit that like button, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the Patriots Press Pass YouTube channel where you can find our show and a lot of other great Patriots content. Also, please make sure to turn on your notifications so you know the instant a new video drops. So we're going live on Tuesdays, 12:15, live on Tuesdays. Well, 12:15-ish. It's really when Greg decides to show up. So it could be 12:15, 12:20. And also, speaking of Greg, check out Greg and Mike Giardi over at BSJ, $50 for the year, tag teaming the Patriots with film and the best sources around. All right, let's get to Rhamondre Stevenson. I thought he had a little bit more juice to his game against Miami than we saw in week 1. And I point your attention and everybody's attention, Greg, to one run. It might seem insignificant. People might have overlooked it when the game was over. But when you go to that final drive, which led to the 53-yard field goal by Andy Borregales, you go to that final drive, there was the run on first down where it should have been a 2-yard loss, 3-yard loss, but Stevenson turns it into like a 2.5, 3-yard gain. And I bring that play up because that was something we have not seen from Rhamondre very often recently, which is fighting through tackles, making guys miss, getting through the contact. And I thought he did a much better job of that against Miami than he did against Vegas.
Yeah, when Rhamondre's going well, he is there's a lot of times in the games where I'm like, well, that was a hell of a 2-yard run or a hell of a 3-yard run when he should have been taken down for 1 yard or 2-yard loss. That's something that Antonio Gibson had done more of last year. But it was great to see Rhamondre do that in this game. I mean, I thought he was tremendous in this game. This was, Rhamondre back being Mondre. I mean, his 21-yard run broke 2 tackles on that. The catch that he had, and I know Drake Maye made a hell of a play on that 55-yard pass. And, one thing also about practice that I wanted to bring up, sort of setting the stage for what we saw on Sunday was that without fail, every single practice this summer, at some point very early in Drake Maye's warm-up, they do a drill with a faux edge rusher, a coach, whatever, intern, bag on his arm, whatever.
Right.
Getting back to his drop, the guy comes, Drake's got to stay in the pocket, stay down the field, and throw. And without fail, they worked on that every single day. So I just wanted to point that out. And it was a great play by Drake. It was. For him to avoid the sack was awesome. For him to stay down the field was awesome. I thought the pass was a little flat for my liking, but the catch that Rhamondre Stevenson made, I mean, you watch it. I mean, he is fully extended fingertip catch. That is a tough catch for the best wide receivers in this league. For Rhamondre Stevenson, who's not exactly known as Alvin Kamara, even though he's a good pass catcher, he's more of a check down type of guy, get you as many yards as possible, occasional wheel route here and there. For him to make that catch and then the yards after catch, that was ridiculous. He had a great run on the 2-point conversion when almost very similar to last week when Michael Wenu whiffed on a short yardage play. Michael Wenu again whiffed on the 2-point conversion, but Rhamondre bailed him out by just, bullying through and getting that. And then it didn't amount to much other than to run some clock because they ended up punting. But the 3rd and 13 screen pass when he picked up 14 yards, it was a great call by Josh McDaniels. It was an even better play by Rhamondre Stevenson to avoid some tacklers. So that was I thought he was terrific in this game, and it was great to see.
Yeah, I thought McDaniels caught him a couple times with screens, perfect play calls in perfect situations. Let me ask you this. Any concern about the wide receiver position and a lack of production?
No, not at the moment. I mean, it's sort of, I thought they played great on offense. And as we know with Josh McDaniels, you never know what you're going to get. You could get, a heavy running game. You could get a heavy screen game. They could decide against the Steelers. Who knows? I haven't looked at them yet. But, if they're very stout on the defensive line or with their run game, and with, I don't know if Highsmith is going to be back and you have TJ Watt, would it be a shock to me to see a heavy shotgun spread game against the Steelers? And now all of a sudden Demario Douglas is more in the mix. No, that would not shock me. I think it was the game plan. I was a little bit surprised that Hunter Henry wasn't more involved. Of course, he did have a catch wiped out by a penalty. But I think that they looked at their best chance against the Dolphins to establish the run, which they did. And that's just not going to be Demario Douglas in the slot because that guy has to go out and root out linebackers and safeties, and you don't want him doing that. Steph Diggs, one time he was he was asked to do a rub route. I think for Rhamondre Stevenson, the pass ended up going for no yards.
Yep.
And Diggs just kind of like, it was like he said, "Nah, I'm good, dog. Like, I'm not getting any way." So Mac Hollins is more involved. Booty's a little bit more physical. So, no, I thought, there were some things they could have done down the field. I just think that it's just the way the game went, and it is what it is, and people just got to get used to it. Maybe they forgot about it because Josh hasn't been here in a while, so it is what it is.
I try to warn people before the season. We talked about it. I talked about it on Locked On Patriots. If you want to check that out, by the way, Locked On Patriots every day. I talked about Pop Douglas. And if you want to establish the run, you've got a head coach who loves to run the football. You've got a play caller who loves to run the football. Pop's not going to be out there. And that's part of the reason why he had 15 snaps against Miami. He's just not big enough. He doesn't have the frame. He doesn't have the game. And if you want to run, you want to kind of establish that. He's just not the guy. So you need a game plan kind of specifically for Pop, and that wasn't it against Miami. And by the way, spoiler alert, Pittsburgh has been terrible against the run the first 2 weeks. All right, let's get to the defense. Greg's been he's been licking his chops. He can't wait to get all of you mad and angry and be the wet blanket for a few minutes. So let's get into the defense. We talked about it after week 1. It certainly did not get better week 2. And really the first issue that we have to discuss is linebacker, because boy, oh boy, this has been an absolute stink sandwich from both Spillane and Ellis. We talked about it last week. Spillane, the missed tackles. There was one play during this game where he's going across the middle and he just goes in the air, leads with his shoulder instead of wrapping the guy up, and just bounces right off of him. Missed tackles, terrible in coverage. Crap on the linebackers, Greg. I know you can't wait.
Yeah. First, I just want to say, one thing. Well, probably more than one thing, because I am going to talk about this on Felger and Maz, and knowing them, it's probably the first thing they're going to grab onto. But can we just talk for a second about the game balls after the game?
And, all right. Yeah, sure.
So Mike Vrabel, they put out the video. Okay. Mike Vrabel, Kraft is in there. Gives a game ball to Rhamondre Stevenson. Absolutely.
Yep.
We just talked about him. Great game. Antonio Gibson, kickoff return that won the game. Absolutely. Here you go. Take a ball. Marte Mapu. Okay. All right. I mean, look, he had an interception. It should have sealed the game. It was more about Tua than anything else and him panicking. But okay. And then we have defensive play caller Zach Kerr. Okay. All right. Back to that in a second. Kicker Andy Borregales.
Yeah, baby.
Are you freaking kidding me?
53 yards, Greg. 53 yards, baby.
Look, I get that it was great that he missed 2 extra points, came back and made 2 field goals, including the 53-yarder. But then he doesn't reach the landing zone and gives Miami the ball at the 40, and he gets a game ball. You know who didn't get a game ball? Drake freaking Maye.
Crazy.
Drake Maye has the best game of his career. It's his second real win. It's his first road win in the division in a house of horrors where they haven't won since Tom Brady was the quarterback. It was only the 17th team win down in Miami. They've lost like 46 games. Drake Maye plays a near perfect game for you to emerge with a victory. All the crap he took last week, which, okay, set that off to the side. Maybe they don't hear the noise. He plays like that, and you don't give Drake Maye a game ball. And not only that, he was asked about Drake Maye after the game, and he goes, I think there's a lot of good things and a lot of things we have to fix. And he goes into all this criticism about, what he did. Now, I will say the day after on radio to the media, he, again, this is like Gerard Mayo still here. He walked back what he said. He gave Drake his flowers, but holy cow, man, like, get a clue. Like, understand what's going on. Drake Maye, you don't win that game if Drake Maye doesn't play a perfect game and like a well-seasoned veteran. Like, I don't know. So far, I mean, Mike he's an interesting dude, man. He really is. And look, it was probably just an oversight, but Stretch or somebody's got to pull him aside and be like, bro, can you give the quarterback his flowers? Like, a little bit. I mean, is Belichick still here? I mean, what the hell? So
maybe they ran out of footballs. Maybe they ran out of footballs, Greg. Maybe they had one football left, and Vrabel was like, "Okay, man, Drake Maye or Andy Borregales, Maye Borregales, Maye Borregales. Maybe
how about Zach Kerr? Like, by the way, so speaking of the defense, and Vrabel said, so he talks about the offensive lull that they had. He's like, when he feels that lull, that's when we got to tighten the screws on these guys and get them to set faster and get them out of the huddle faster and really push them. He's a jockey, and he's got to know what the flow of the team looks like offensively. We had a couple of penalties and false starts. Again, things we really aren't going to be able to overcome eventually. That was when he was asked talk about Drake Maye's day. Okay, that was part of his question. A lull? Can we talk about the lull on defense? 4 straight possessions when they gave up points where, they had to hold on for dear life. They're getting ripped through. Do we hear anything about the lull on the defense? I asked him about the defense and the big plays, and he basically was kind of like, you're going to give up some plays to the Dolphins. Like, we tried to do, X, Y, and Z and get them outside. They hit them on one of them. I mean, the Patriots don't score on 2 possessions in the game, and they talk about, like, there's this, like, huge lull. I mean, like, what are we talking about?
Well,
your defense stinks to high hell. I mean, the Raiders
starts right. Just one more. The perfect, like, this is like a microcosm of it. But you bring up the false starts, you bring up the procedural stuff, but he doesn't bring up the fact that his guys couldn't line up correctly on defense a couple of times in this game. Caleb on Chason failed to do that, maybe once, if not twice. So you had offsides a couple times. There were plenty of things defensively that you could certainly button up, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, seriously. And so, yeah, I mean, like, this is your baby, and you're a defensive head coach, and your defense stinks to high hell. Like, as soon as the DVOA adjusts for opponent, I thought they did. Even in the early going, they don't do that until after week 4. They could be the worst defense in DVOA right now. I think they're 30th or something like that. They're 31st, I think, against the pass. The Raiders, you made the Raiders and Geno Smith look like the greatest show on turf in week 1 with 9 pass plays over 20 yards. And last night against the Chargers, they couldn't leak a drop, and Geno Smith looked like the worst quarterback in the league. With 3 interceptions. The Dolphins couldn't do jack against the Colts in week 1. And, you make them punt on the first possession. Then they just, run through you. You can't even play defense when your offense spots you a 2-score lead early in the game. So that should allow you to be like, oh, well, let's just sit back and not let the Dolphins, rip through us with big plays. No. Let's give up plays all over the place. Like, let's just call man coverage and get completely roasted. Let's put Robert Spillane in man coverage against A-Chain and let him get roasted for a touchdown. Like, you brought it up. I mean, the tackling was atrocious. That's kind of like a requirement of playing defense in this league. I mean, it was awful. And I know that the Dolphins are little jitterbugs, but here's the thing with the defense through 2 weeks. And again, it's just through 2 games. So I don't know where this is going. I assume it's going to get better. If you think this is about Christian Gonzalez not being out there, you're fooling yourselves. Okay. Because you can want to play all the man coverage you want. The problem is, if you play man coverage at cornerback, you have to do it everywhere else, including your linebackers. So what has been disappointed in through 2 weeks, and we'll see how this evolves. I assume they're going to get better. and they're going to figure some things out. But I have been very underwhelmed with the game plans going into these games. The over-aggressiveness against the Raiders. The decisions to play man coverage or man concepts at times against the Dolphins. It was just, they're not putting their players in positions to succeed. Not having more of a plan in long yardage to put a Mapu or more corners or whatever on the field. Very slow to adjust in these games. So the defense is a house of horrors at this point, and it'd be nice. We sounded the alarm bell after week 1 because everybody wanted to be all over the offense. And I was like, on my list of worries, the offense is like 4th. Vrabel, defense, special teams, and then the offense. I would probably keep it there at this point in time, but boy, that was rough on Sunday. I thought the Raiders game was worse, but this was bad.
You all right?
No.
You okay?
You know how I go. That when I watch film and I just watch the defensive film, I get, if it's bad football, you get cranky Greg. You're getting cranky Greg today. I mean,
is the wife
go back to talking about Drake?
Check your heart before you go to Felger Mez. I mean, this is just the beginning of your day. You got to go do those guys. Good luck to you. Good luck to you. It was an interesting dichotomy. I'm watching the game last night between the Chargers and the Raiders, and the broadcast team pounded it over and over and over again. And shout out to Chris Fowler, who sounded like he was literally dying in the booth, but kept calling the game. The Chargers, and this is like a Minter stuff. This is how he approaches games most of the time with that defense. And that Chargers defense, I think, was first in the NFL last year in scoring. So they're good.
Yeah.
But they lost Khalil Mack early in the game, and they were still as good. But it was interesting, the approach. You just mentioned the aggressiveness by the Patriots week 1 against that Raiders offense. And they kept talking about it last night. The Chargers, what they made Geno Smith do was, hey, if you're gonna kill us, it's gonna be death by paper cut. You're gonna have to be super patient. You're gonna have to slowly march down the field, and that's how you're gonna score points. And we saw how that worked out for Geno last night. Patriots were completely different. It was, balls to the wall. Let's go. Pin our ears back. We're going bananas. We're blitzing. Let's go crazy. We're dropping Barmore and Williams, baby, on a 3rd and 11. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go nuts. And Smith ripped you. So I just thought it was interesting how the coaching staffs approached it. Now, maybe that could be, a reaction to what they saw in the film against the Patriots and said, if we go aggressive, they might kill us. It's also, we got to point out, it's a divisional game, so they do know each other better. But yeah, that was an interesting dichotomy. All right. I do want to bring up one thing about the defense before we get to 3 up, 3 down. That was actually good. And I thought it was the 4th quarter, and I thought it was a defensive line. Milton Williams showing up, sealing the game for you with a big sack. I thought Williams was good. Barmore had some moments. Landry was much more quiet than I anticipated going up against the backup right tackle, but he did show up and make a couple plays late in the game. So the pressure was, Andrew Callahan had this, the pressure in the 4th quarter was 66% on Tua. And I think that means a lot, Greg, when it's a hot day outside, you're in the 4th quarter of a close game. Those guys didn't get gassed. Those guys kept pushing. And I thought the defensive line in the first half was quiet. They got almost no pressure on Tua through 2.5, 3 quarters. But in the 4th quarter, I do want to give some credit to those guys up front because I thought they saved this game to a point by getting to Tua and also being much better against the run in the second half than they were in the first half.
Yeah, I thought, I thought the defensive line, while quiet, I thought they were pretty good overall in terms of, like, they had some penalties, but outside of that, I caught Tonga on a 1 run gap. He got shoved out of with a double team, but other than that, they were solid. But like you said, they couldn't do anything, and they didn't really blitz very much, hardly at all in this game. And which you figured they're going to play more coverage. They did eventually get there. I thought Tua was complicit with some of that pressure There were a couple sacks where he just ran out of bounds that I don't think were really. I didn't even put them as sacks. Maybe somebody, had a hurry, but they did close out the game well, and I think the game situation somewhat, dictated it. Again, I don't think Tua was very sharp. I thought he missed some things down the field that were there. But yeah, well, I mean, it was good to see them close out the game. But if this defense is going to do anything, they're going to need those guys to do stuff before the fourth quarter. They can't bank on, Drake Maye playing perfect, giving them the lead, a kickoff return for them to be put in a situation where they have a chance to tee off, with the pass rush. So, and, the coverage concepts in the back end factor into that. Like, I figured that we would see a lot more sort of, drop into shorter zones, muddy the middle of the field for Tua, which they did to an extent. But, there are a lot of easy, quick completions, both short and long with Tua. And, a lot of the time, the reason that they were quiet is because, they weren't making Tua hold the ball with the coverage concept. So another, in my mind, a coaching fail. And so far, this defensive coaching staff is 0 for 2 in my mind. And we'll have to see, whether they can sort of get it together and piece it together as they go along.
All right, we're going to get to 3 down, 3 up in a second, but don't forget CLNS YouTube channels. You get the Media Network and Celtics All Access on CLNS for behind-the-scenes content, segments from their many Celtics podcast, NBA History Channel, Bruins Rinkside, and, of course, Patriots Press Pass. All right, so I'm going to make an executive decision here. I'm going to start with 3 down because I want to cleanse this from your system so we can end on a good note with 3 up. So let's start with 3 down so we can end somewhat with a smile on our face after a win. So 3 down, Greg, you do one, I do one, you do one, I do one, so on forth.
So I am going to go with Robert Spillane. I had him for four missed tackles, a half of a touchdown, the 29-yarder Achane, an 18-yard run. I don't. You consume all this stuff. I was in the locker room after the game-ish, after Drake Maye, and maybe, I don't know if he was in there before and talked real quick and left, but I made a beeline for Robert Spillane's locker to talk about the defense, and his locker was ghost town. So I don't even know if he hung around after the game. It was rough.
8 missed tackles, according to Pro Football Focus. This is from Doug Kyde of the Herald. Spillane and Ellis, and by the way, Ellis has 6
That's
missed
through
tackles.
2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
That's through 2 games.
Yeah. I think I saw somebody say Spillane had only like 10 missed tackles the entire year last year. And he's got 8 through 2 weeks. Ellis, 6 missed tackles, and Kyde also gives us the numbers in the coverage. Spillane and Ellis, now this was before Monday Night Football, so I don't know if it's changed, but Spillane and Ellis are 2 of the 8 linebackers who have allowed 100+ yards in coverage through 2 weeks. So not only have they been terrible against the run, missing tackles, they have gotten absolutely burnt trying to cover. All right, so that's your first down. My first down is Alex Austin. Woof. Not a good day for him. And I've been big on Austin. I think he's going to be a good third corner, but it was a bad day. Really, the perfect example of this was the 3rd and long, where he just overran the play, underthrown by Tua. Tua threw it up for grabs. That's a balloon ball. That should have been picked, if not by Austin, then by Woodson. It was just hanging up there for 40 minutes. I felt like I was watching a movie. It's just staying up there forever. And I'm like, this is going to be picked, right? And Austin just did not do a great job tracking the ball in the air. So Alex Austin, not a good day for him.
So, yeah, to point out on that play, the way that I read it was that the Patriots were in cover 3. Alex Austin had that deep third of the field. So he should have he should have just been running down the field and don't let Tyreek Hill get over the top. And also what I also factored in Jalen Hawkins. You should watch the play. Watch the play and watch what Jalen Hawkins does. He just sort of stands there and does nothing where he's supposed to. So basically, I think he's supposed to get under Tyreek. So Austin's supposed to be over, and they're supposed to, read it. So I just wanted to point that out.
So that was Hawkins, not Woodson. I thought that was Woodson. That's my bad. Was that Hawkins that was just kind of chilling?
I'm pretty sure it was Hawkins, but I'm not sure. It's
31,
sometimes it's hard.
It's 31-21. So you know what I mean. So I don't know if it was Woodson or Hawkins, but whoever the safety was watching the football like I was watching the football from my couch. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Number 2 down for me. So many to choose from.
They won.
I'm going to go with Craig Woodson, even without that play, and I did not mark him down. I thought he was not good on the Jalen Waddle play. He was all messed up. He got his shoulders inside. He needs to flatten out. He needs to help over the top, or at least provide some coverage. He wasn't even close there. He had part in a 22-yard play. He had a part. He missed. He was one of like 3 people to miss the tackle on Achane on his touchdown. He factored into a 23-yard pass play. Like he had a tough time in zone figuring out exactly what he wanted to do. So I'm going to go with Craig Woodson as my number 2 down.
All right, my number 2 down is your boy Andy Borregales. We mentioned him enough earlier, but here's a game ball, Andy. So you get to be one of my 3 down, but Mike Vrabel gave you a game ball, so I'm sure you feel good about it.
Here's a lollipop. My 3rd down. Contenders: Robert Spillane, Alex Austin, Travion Henderson, Morgan Moses. But I am going to go with Andy Borregales. And really the cherry on the crap sundae was not reaching the landing zone and giving the Dolphins life and the ball at the 40 freaking yard line. Here's a game ball, buddy. Take a game ball.
The waves of my emotion when he kicks the 53-yard field goal, I tweeted out, that's a great response, right? Like he missed 2 extra points. It's on the road. This is a big kick for him. And to his credit, he knocks it. He knocks it down, 53-yard field goal. Good job, young man. Way to come back and fight it mentally and get the job done. And so I tweet, great response by the young man. And then literally the kickoff. and I had a quote tweet myself and said, and then that, ... unreal. It was like, I was like, all right, man, good job. And then 10 seconds later, what are we doing? It was the waves of emotion. I put down Morgan Moses, but he was playing hurt. So I'll go with Travion Henderson, who, supposed to be great in pass protection. We talked about it throughout the draft process and all camp long, and he stunk out loud in pass protection. He had 3 holds called on him, 2 offensively, 1 on special teams. He was accountable for at least 1, if not 2 sacks. He was bad. I know he caught the wheel route. I know he had the screen pass, but he was bad and things could have went off the rails. All right. Now let's end this on a high note. Before we do, don't forget to download the PrizePicks app today. Use code CLNS, get $50 instantly when you play $5. 3 up. Who's your first up?
Drake Maye. Best game as a pro. Here's your game ball. I should have brought a football down. Here's your game ball, Drake, since your head coach is a big meanie and wouldn't give you one. You get my game ball for this. I thought, and look, it wasn't, and I just, people need to stop riding the wave. All right. Like, don't dump on the kid. Don't go over the top about this to be like, I'm sure there's some people, like Bill Simmons is a huge Drake Maye guy. Like anytime he does anything good, he's like, he's arrived. Now he's going to be great. And he's going to just chill. All right. Let the kid develop. Don't ride the wave. Just appreciate the growth that you've seen. It wasn't like one of these games where it wasn't one of these Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson, like, big play after big play. He didn't have all that many plus plays for me. He really, what he did was he managed the game when they needed plays, and when he had the opportunity to make big plays, he took advantage of it. He was accurate. He was in command. I thought he was tremendous in this game, and hopefully this is a step forward. And I don't expect him to play like this every single week, and nobody should. But it was great to see, and brings a lot of comfort to me. Where he is in terms of this is just his second game in the system. It's amazing to me.
I'm going to guess you're going to go with the other running back, so I'm going to give Antonio Gibson some love. The kickoff return, good red zone run, good job by Antonio Gibson. You're second up.
Yeah, Rhamondre Stevenson. We've talked about him enough. Just terrific game, made plays. Was real rock solid in pass protection. Just great. I'm
going to go with Anthony Jennings.
Good choice.
This is an unsung hero.
Mm-hmm.
I tweeted it because nobody was talking about him. He only played like 11 or 12 defensive snaps. Go back and look at the beginning of the second half when he's out there. He single-handedly came up with like 3 run stops on the edge. Like he was
I have him for three plus plays against the run.
Like he was the reason that Miami started off badly running the football in the second half after they were gashing the Patriots in the first half. So shout out to Anthony Jennings. He also made some special teams plays. He made a tackle, I believe, on special teams. He was also part of the blocking group that sprung Gibson free. So, again, unsung hero, not a ton of opportunity, but I thought a completely professional game from Anthony Jennings, who showed up, and he made the most of his opportunities against Miami. And I wouldn't mind seeing him Sunday against the Steelers get some more snaps on the edge, especially if the run defense looked like it looked in the first half. So shout out to Anthony Jennings.
Yep. And I'll go with Will Campbell. I thought he was great. People like with Drake Maye, don't go nuts. Don't go blowing Felger and Maz and talking about arms. It's one game. Let's see what he does going forward. Let's see what he does against the Steelers. But celebrate this game. I thought he was nearly perfect to see, your young quarterback and your young left tackle for now play basically perfect games and on the road in Miami. Pretty damn good.
Perfect way to end it, because I got Jared Wilson, the other rookie on the left side, who was really good. And look, if you walk away from this game, there's a lot of stuff that we criticize, obviously defensively, special teams wise, but you walk away from this game, you've got Drake Maye playing his best game of his career so far. You've got your rookie left tackle and your rookie left guard playing a really good game against a good, talented defensive line. So if there's anything to take away, the left side of your offensive line and your quarterback played really well. So that's good. That's really good news. But again, as Greg said, it's game 2. This is not linear. There's going to be ups and downs, young players. It happens to every single one of them in the league. But you walk away from this game feeling good about those 3 guys, and I think that's significant. All right. We will be back later in the week to preview the Steelers. Greg's going to go hang out with Felger and Maz. Until next time, he's Greg. I'm Nick. We'll talk to you soon.